Normandy, June 1944. British soldiers defend a concrete bunker overlooking the beach. Reinforced walls, machine gun nest, commanding field of fire. German infantry advance. British machine guns open fire. The Germans take cover. Artillery cannot penetrate the bunker. Grenades cannot reach the firing slit. Then a German soldier steps forward, carrying metal tanks on his back. He aims a tube at the bunker entrance. What happens next? The British have never seen before. A stream of liquid fire erupts. Not a grenade, not artillery. Liquid fire that flows like water, burning water. It shoots 30 meters through the air and pours through the narrow opening. Inside the bunker, the fire sticks to concrete walls, to equipment, to men. It burns at over 1,000 degrees. Water cannot extinguish it. The British soldiers scream. The machine gun goes silent. In 10 seconds, the bunker is cleared. The Flammenwerfer 35, the weapon that turned defensive positions into death traps, because there is no defense against liquid fire. The problem facing infantry in World War II was fortified positions, concrete bunkers, machine gun nests, pillboxes with reinforced walls and narrow firing slits. These structures dominated battlefields across Europe. Artillery could damage them but rarely destroyed them. Grenades required close approach under fire. Direct assault meant massive casualties. Attacking forces needed a weapon that could neutralize fortifications without penetrating thick concrete. The German Flammenwerfer 35 was that weapon. The name translates simply, Flammenwerfer, flamethrower. The concept dated to World War I when Germany first deployed flamethrowers against French and British trenches. Those early models were crude, heavy, dangerous to operate. The fuel mixture was unstable. The range was limited. Operators became priority targets. By 1918, flamethrower units suffered catastrophic casualty rates. The weapon worked, but at terrible cost to those who carried it. German engineers spent the interwar years refining the design. The Flammenwerfer 35, designated as such because development completed in 1935, represented 2 decades of improvement. The weapon consisted of 2 pressurized cylinders worn on the operator's back. One cylinder held fuel, the other held nitrogen gas for propellant. A rubber hose connected the cylinders to a metal ignition gun. The operator aimed the gun and pulled the trigger. Pressurized fuel shot through the nozzle where an ignition system lit it. The result was a stream of burning liquid that could reach targets 30 meters away. The fuel mixture was the critical innovation. Early flamethrowers used gasoline. It burned hot but did not adhere to surfaces. It evaporated quickly. It could be partially extinguished with water or dirt. The Flammenwerfer 35 used a different formula. Petroleum jelly mixed with gasoline. The Germans called it flame oil, flame oil. The petroleum jelly thickened the mixture into a gel. The gel stuck to whatever it touched: concrete, steel, wood, cloth, skin. And once ignited, it burned at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. The weapon specifications tell the story of German engineering precision. Total weight fully loaded was 35 kilograms. The fuel tank held 11 liters of flame oil. The nitrogen tank held compressed gas at 150 atmospheres of pressure. This pressure was sufficient for 10 to 12 bursts. Each burst lasted approximately 2 seconds. Effective range was 30 meters under ideal conditions. 20 meters in combat. Total operating time from first burst to fuel exhaustion was roughly 60 seconds. 60 seconds does not sound long, but in combat, 60 seconds with a flamethrower could change the outcome of an engagement. A single operator could clear multiple bunkers, trenches, or fortified positions before depleting the fuel supply. The psychological impact multiplied the tactical effectiveness. If you are finding this interesting, a quick subscribe helps more than you know. Training for Flammenwerfer operators began at specialized schools in Germany. Candidates were selected for physical strength and mental stability. The weapon was heavy. Operating it under fire required courage. Flamethrower operators knew they would become immediate targets. Enemy infantry learned to identify the distinctive silhouette of the fuel tanks and prioritize killing the operator before he could fire. Operators practiced firing at mock bunkers. They learned to account for wind and weather conditions. Liquid fire behaved differently than bullets. Experience taught adjustment based on conditions. The tactical doctrine was straightforward. Flamethrower teams operated as part of assault groups. The team consisted of the operator carrying the Flammenwerfer and 2 or 3 riflemen providing protection. The riflemen suppressed enemy fire while the operator maneuvered into range. Once positioned, the operator fired short bursts into the target. Bunker firing slits, trench sections, building windows, Anywhere defenders concentrated, the effect was devastating. Liquid fire poured through openings and spread inside enclosed spaces. Defenders had seconds to evacuate before the fire consumed available oxygen and turned the interior into an oven. Those who remained died from burns, smoke inhalation, or heat trauma. Those who fled became targets for supporting infantry. Concrete protection became a liability. Thick walls that stopped bullets trapped men inside with the fire. The first major combat use came during the invasion of France in 1940. German assault engineers used Flammenwerfer units to reduce French fortifications along the Maginot Line extension. Concrete bunkers that French engineers believed impenetrable fell to flamethrower attacks. The tactic was simple: pin defenders with machine gun fire, maneuver flamethrower operator to bunker entrance or firing slit, fire multiple bursts inside, wait for defenders to surrender or die, occupy position. French after-action reports describe the attacks in horrified detail. Defenders watched through firing slits as German soldiers approached carrying strange equipment. They fired their weapons. Sometimes they hit the flamethrower operator. Sometimes they did not. When the liquid fire came, there was no defense. The fire flowed through slits designed to allow bullets out while keeping grenades out. The design that made the bunker strong against conventional weapons made it vulnerable to flamethrowers. British forces encountered Flammenwerfer units during the Norway campaign in 1940, and again in North Africa. German mountain troops used flamethrowers to clear Norwegian defensive positions in terrain where artillery support was limited. In Libya, Afrika Korps assault engineers used them against British strongpoints. The British had no equivalent weapon. Their own flamethrower development lagged behind German progress. British infantry learned to fear the distinctive sound of igniting fuel and the sight of liquid fire arcing through the air. The Eastern Front saw the most extensive Flammenwerfer use. Soviet defensive doctrine emphasized fortified positions, bunkers, log-reinforced trenches, fighting positions with overhead cover. German assault tactics specifically incorporated flamethrower teams to overcome these defenses. Soviet soldiers developed deep hatred for Flammenwerfer operators. Captured operators were rarely taken prisoner. The Soviets considered use of flamethrowers a war crime. German soldiers knew capture while carrying a Flammenwerfer meant execution. Despite the danger, German infantry valued the weapon. After-action reports consistently praised Flammenwerfer effectiveness. One report from the Eastern Front noted that a single flamethrower operator cleared 7 Soviet bunkers in 15 minutes during an assault on a fortified village. 7 bunkers, 15 minutes. The report estimated that taking those same positions with conventional infantry assault would have required 2 hours and cost 50 casualties. One man with a Flammenwerfer accomplished what would have required a company. The weapon was not without limitations. The 35-kilogram weight exhausted operators during long approaches. The fuel supply lasted only 60 seconds of actual firing time. Once depleted, the operator carried useless weight. The ignition system sometimes failed. Moisture could prevent the fuel from lighting. Mechanical failures left operators exposed at close range to enemy fire. And most critically, the distinctive silhouette made operators priority targets. Allied soldiers learned to recognize Flammenwerfer operators by the twin cylinders on their backs. Snipers targeted them. Machine gunners gave them priority. Artillery observers called fire on their positions. The life expectancy of a Flammenwerfer operator in combat was measured in weeks, not months. German casualty records show that flamethrower units suffered losses 3 to 4 times higher than standard infantry. Yet volunteers continued to serve. Some were motivated by the tactical advantages the weapon provided their units. Others by the additional pay flamethrower specialists received, some by simple duty. The German military did not lack for men willing to carry the Flammenwerfer despite the risks. Defensive countermeasures developed slowly. Allied forces designed bunkers with multiple exits for rapid evacuation. They positioned bunkers to provide mutual supporting fire, but these measures only reduced effectiveness. They did not eliminate the threat. The Germans produced approximately 80,000 Flammenwerfer 35 units during the war. This massive production reflected the weapon's value. Flamethrower companies were organic to assault engineer battalions. Specialized flamethrower battalions existed for major operations. The weapon appeared on every front where Germany fought. Allied nations developed their own flamethrowers, but generally lagged behind German technology. The British ACPAC had shorter range. American M1 and M2 models were better, but still inferior. German Flammenwerfer 35 remained the most effective man-portable flamethrower of World War II. The psychological impact extended beyond those who faced the weapon. Allied soldiers who witnessed flamethrower attacks described them as the most terrifying weapon they encountered. More frightening than artillery, more disturbing than tank guns. Because fire induced primal fear, soldiers could take cover from bullets and shells, they could dig in against bombs, but fire flowed into shelters and bunkers. Fire consumed the places that should have provided safety. German propaganda made effective use of flamethrower imagery. Photos of Flammenwerfer operators in action appeared in military publications and newsreels. The message was clear. German assault forces possessed weapons that could overcome any defense. For defenders, the propaganda had the opposite effect. It amplified fear and damaged morale. The Flammenwerfer 35 remained in production until 1945. Late war shortages reduced quality, but even degraded units remained effective psychological weapons. Post-war analysis confirmed the Flammenwerfer 35 was the most effective flamethrower of its generation. American and Soviet engineers examined captured units. Both incorporated German design features into post-war development. The basic twin-cylinder configuration became standard. But the human cost cannot be calculated in specifications and tactical effectiveness. Tens of thousands died from German flamethrower attacks. Bunkers that should have protected soldiers became cremation chambers. The weapon violated fundamental assumptions about warfare. Soldiers expected to die from bullets or shells. They did not expect to burn to death inside their own fortifications. The Flammenwerfer 35 succeeded because it exploited a fundamental vulnerability. Fortifications protected against kinetic weapons, against bullets and shells and shrapnel. But concrete bunkers could not stop liquid fire. The stronger the bunker, the better it trapped defenders with the flames. The very features that made defensive positions effective against conventional attack made them death traps against flamethrowers. Normandy, June 1944. A German soldier carrying a Flammenwerfer approaches a British bunker. Inside, soldiers crouch behind reinforced concrete, believing themselves safe. They are not safe. Concrete cannot stop liquid fire. In 10 seconds, the machine gun falls silent. The bunker is cleared. The Flammenwerfer 35 proved that the best defensive position means nothing when the enemy has a weapon that turns shelter into a trap. 1,000 degrees, 30 meters range, 60 seconds of fuel, and no defense. The German flamethrower that cleared bunkers in seconds. Not through penetration, through terror, through fire that flows like water and burns like hell. The weapon that made concrete walls a liability instead of protection. That was German engineering. That was the Flammenwerfer.